Welcome back to This Is Whole Life, originating on the airwaves from Orlando, Florida. Every week we do this. We get together, Ken Wetmore, Dr. Melanie Bachman, Lucas Moraes, and me. I'm Randy. We get together every single week and we do this and we discuss things that we are going through and things we're learning at Whole Life Church every Saturday morning at 9:30 and 12 p.m. Eastern Standard. You can follow along wholelife.church/live. Tune in and then you can submit a question in the chat and have it answered right here in the podcast because we would like to hear from you. We heard from a lot of people this week because work is a 4-letter word. And it's also a message that Ken preached this week. Is that what work is a 4-letter word? That was the name of the sermon, right?
Get to work.
Oh, get to work. Sounded like
Get to work.
Yeah, see, didn't it sound like a command? I liked how you started that. And people were just like, whatever. Get to work. That sounds so brash. It sounds so now and like, get to work, buddy. Yeah, I liked how you started that out. I think you got the desired effect.
Just like everybody else in the church hearing what I have to say every morning when I walk in here to Whole Life. Get to work.
The play is over.
Sometimes he yells it across the parking lot, get to work.
I just start screaming it the moment I get out of my vehicle.
So this is part, like we're doing a whole series on work, are we not? I've
been working on it.
You've been working on it? You're gonna working. I mean, I feel confident, as always, that we will do that. But like the play seems good, right? Like we don't take enough time to play. I think everybody knows that. At least us here in America, I feel like we don't take enough time. So that was like, okay, we need to learn how to play. But do we really need to learn how to work?
Well, there are a couple people in the world who
probably could use a helping hand. What was it my grandpa said? What was the verse? And I should have looked it up because it was one he used to tell us all the time when he'd be like, hey, Rand, you want to come outside and help me rake leaves? I don't know. I'm pretty comfortable here reading my book. Not really. I mean, if you're asking.
That 1-2 part is.
Was that a book about a shepherd? I'm just
no. No. It might have been The Walking Drum though, which is the other book that I have mentioned, and Ken has mentioned multiple times.
I was just really excited this morning. You shared a third book that you're reading. So
when you go I like going to bookstores. And we went to the coolest bookstore ever in the history of the world, Odyssey Books.
No, hang on a second. Okay. You like going to bookstores, but you've read 3 books?
I like to go to them. I didn't say I like to read what was inside of them.
What do you like about them? I'm just really curious. Most of us, when we go to bookstores, because we...
No, exchanging books. Like I like used bookstores, but this was a new bookstore. Very cool, but you can exchange. That's what we used to do all the time. My mom and I would go in and like, here, we'll sell you these 3 and we'll buy those 4.
I think you like to read more than you're letting on. I think that whole 3 books thing is just...
Well, maybe a couple here and there. But
you just gave yourself away when you said I like to go to bookstores.
But to go to the bookstore, I don't want to be rushed. I don't go with like, I'm going to buy this book. I want to find a book. And that's what happened recently on our last vacation here was we actually found a bookstore for Ellie. She loves bookstores. Went in, I found a book, and I was like, I don't want $20. And I was being cheap, and my wife was just like, we're on vacation, I'm buying you the book. And she put it on the counter and bought it. And now I can't put it down, so nice. I'll be passing it along.
So it's worth the money.
It was worth the money.
And now everyone's really upset with me because I totally derailed you, and now we don't know what your grandfather said.
Well, my grandfather used to say, he would always cite the verse, and I should probably know it because he told it to me enough times, was... He that does not work does not eat, and that must be a proverb or something.
No, that's New Testament.
I do believe that's Paul,
that's
actually.
Paul.
And I'm trying to remember which one of his epistles that was.
So he would threaten me with like, well, when Grandma makes dinner, since you don't want to come out and help, we'll just, you can just stay in the living room and read your book. And I was like, you're giving me choices. I do like to read, and I'm not sure I'm that hungry that raking leaves is worth. I mean, I would have to sit and think about it, but that's just kind of my personality. So take that for what.
2 Thessalonians 3.
See, there you go.
We go.
But he liked to quote that one a lot.
2 Thessalonians 3.
2 Thessalonians 3. Yes. Easy for me to say. That's perfect.
But hard for Ken.
So work is essential, and I think it's defining to us to some degree. And maybe, Melanie, you're the only female in the room. Do women feel as much defined by what they do as men seem to be? Is that an equal thing, or is that a...
Well, just a moment, Randy. Let me speak for all women everywhere.
That's what I was hoping.
Speak on behalf of all women,
what I was
not only that
for.
are alive, but who have ever lived.
So dear women, this is for you. This Melanie is speaking. No,
Yeah.
but from your experience.
Oh, for me personally?
Yeah.
Does my work define me?
Or from your friends. I mean, do you feel like that? Like, because, a guy's going to come walk up to you and the first thing we're going to ask is, what do you do?
Yeah.
Is that a woman thing too?
Well,
or no?
after spending so many years in school to do a certain kind of work, I guess it ends up defining me whether I like it or not, just because it's so formational, just that process of preparation. So yeah, does it define me? Sure.
Yeah. So there's no way to get away from it. And this again, like play, I get play. We probably should learn to play a little bit better, a little more often. But for most people, I mean, work is unavoidable. I mean, we have bills to pay, we have things that need to happen, and we need insurance. All these kinds of things that come along with some jobs, some not. So I really was just trying to think of like, where are we going to tie all this together? And when Ken was like, and the first mention of work in the Bible, and I'm like, man, what's that going to be? I was so far out of not being in tune at all with where Ken was going, and he's like, Genesis 1:1, and I'm like, all right. Now that's too obvious. But you did have people, you said, that have, maybe thought it was...
It's a curse, yeah.
A curse,
Genesis 3, where God basically says, now you'll have to eat from the ground by the sweat of your brow. Yeah.
That sounds like that. Now that sounds a lot more like the work we know versus 1:1, where creation was, you said, creating things, taking things out of chaos and putting them in order. Sounds like a lot more well, I don't know if it sounds like I don't know how hard it is to create, so I guess that I shouldn't talk for God. Like I'm like, well, that just sounds like a lot more fun, God. Well, I don't know, maybe it isn't.
And I don't feel like anybody sitting at this table is prepared to speak on behalf of God on this one. So
probably not. But I also feel like we spend so much of our lives doing work that I'm like, okay, all right, I'm with you. We should working in God's image, and He gave us dominion. Ooh, I liked the conversation that you had with the lady on the plane about dominion.
Yeah.
About you think you can just do whatever you want, you Christians, because you've been given dominion over that caretakership, maintaining order. Again, this sounds a little bit like your job could be like herding cats or, doing something. I mean, people in the chat had a ton, like McDonald's, I think, was the only duplicate we had, like your least favorite job.
Oh.
Yeah, Tito, and there was someone else that said that McDonald's, sorry, McDonald's. But if you'd like to sponsor the show, it's podcast at church.
Or just send Randy a cheeseburger.
Well,
We just lost our sponsorship for sure.
I was trying to help you out of what you got us into.
Oh, sorry. What Ken said. Yeah, let's do that. And T. Cinco, I loved it. She said least favorite job she's ever had was payroll manager at a small company. Most favorite? Do you want to guess?
Well, it had to be working a whole life.
The one she retired from.
Yeah, there we go.
I was like, there we go.
That's why I feel so sorry for Lucas. Lucas, you're not even out of your 20s, right? I mean,
yeah, 28.
Yeah, so
man.
I just need you to understand you right now have the best job you'll ever have
I am aware
in your life. So
I don't
It's
take
only
for
downhill from here.
granted.
So
No,
if
Get
you
it
go
early.
anywhere else,
Yeah.
I'm not leaving, guys. I hope you guys like me.
we like you a lot, so it's going to work out great
That's
for all of
right.
us.
It's going to be a letdown wherever you go. I can promise that. Who else? Least favorite was working the front desk at a hotel right after college. Ooh, front desk at a hotel.
Have you done that before? I haven't. I always kind of thought I might enjoy that.
I think you could. I think you could meet some really fun people, and you would meet people from all over the place. But I mean, when you're okay, we were just on vacation, and at 11 o'clock at night, we're rolling into town. It was one of our longer days that we didn't really care for. It wasn't really the way we had planned it out. And you get there, and they're like, "Oh, we're sorry, we're full." And it's like, maybe you don't know how to hold the reservation. They're like, no, we know how to hold the reservation. We just held it for you on Sunday night. which is when we run the auto train. And Heather's like, why in the world would we schedule for Sunday night? And here it is Tuesday, and we don't have a hotel room. And so even if you're kind about it, I just feel like there's a lot of backlash that can happen at the hotel.
Well, Randy, as someone who has worked the front desk of a hotel,
Tell us more.
Yes.
Jeez, wow, you're forthcoming this week.
But we don't
appreciate that.
define you by that.
No, we do not.
however, I was competent, so there was that.
There was that.
But you know what? Actually, a couple of my favorite times was when people came to check in late, and I said, "I'm so sorry. The only room we have left is the presidential suite."
Ooh, that's fun.
And I'm going
Oh.
to give you a special price on it. See, that was fun. That was
What?
fun. That's hospitality.
And
That's,
reasonable.
what's the hospitality we like?
Uncommon.
Unreasonable.
Uncommon.
Unreasonable and uncommon. But mostly unreasonable.
Let's see. My most favorite job. This was Rod, which made me laugh. He said my most favorite job was the one I retired from. My least favorite job was the one I retired from. It's complicated. Rod, I want to hear more, and I think just so please let me know what that was about.
Pretty sure there's you could spend a whole day talking about that.
Oh,
one.
yeah.
I happen to know Rod, so.
Favorite. Erin said her favorite job was looking back was assembling surgical kits when she was a senior. I'm assuming, I don't know if that was high school, college. Least favorite was working in a lockdown facility for teens. Ouch.
Oh.
Yeah, that can be kind of brutal.
I think that would be I had a part-time job calling people to join a buying club. Lim, I am so
Whoa.
sorry, Lim. And I can see why
Yeah.
that was your least.
That's rough.
That's just nobody's got any time for that. I don't know how you survive. I did do cold calling as a part of being a financial salesman, which was not my favorite. Even though I don't mind doing it, it's not fun.
I sold religious books door to door.
Oh, culprit.
I wasn't really built for that.
You weren't?
No, I think I got down to like the last, I think out of like 10 weeks of the summer, by about week 7 or 8, I think I had raised all of like $300.
So Kenson, I have got 2 cases of books in the back, and I've got a deal just for you.
I don't know. I've always had a hard time selling the gospel as far as like being like, hey, you want to pay me to know Jesus?
Yeah,
For $14.99.
And I mean, I guess I
you
get a salary to do that now, but it just feels somewhat different than like walking up to somebody's door and saying, for only $20, I'll let you get to know Jesus by reading this book.
But wait, there's more. That's the other problem.
Working my way through school. Have mercy on me.
There's an accompanying color book.
I know so many people who do so well at that, and I was not one of them. The only thing that saved me, I had this really cool experience that did happen to me at the end of it, but it was that's what saved me.
So, okay, since we've read everybody else's, Lucas, we'll start with you. Worst job ever.
Worst job ever. Oh man, I don't think I have a worst job. I liked all of my jobs, but I'm not lying. But I used to work
You're
at
such a positive, nice person.
I know. I like you so much.
We like that about
Lucas.
you.
Appreciate it, guys.
It does mean that you liking this job doesn't mean quite as much as it did before this.
But I work at a maintenance for the dorm in college.
Okay.
So I was cleaning,
But you're okay with that.
Oh yeah, it was fun. I was 17 years old. Like,
Yeah, that's not the worst.
no.
All right, so we got maintenance. Melanie.
Honestly, I'm with Lucas. I think I've enjoyed most jobs. The only jobs that I really didn't enjoy were ones that I dreaded being with certain people.
Oh, that brings us
So yeah, that was difficult. I had some really terrible managers and some really terrible coworkers at a couple of jobs. So
yes. Ken, worst job. Was it the colporter?
I already told you guys in the sermon, but thanks for paying attention, Randy.
I probably have that written down upcoming, don't I?
No, there's a mushroom factory.
Oh, that's right, the
Yeah.
mushroom factory.
And I would love to see whether Melanie and Lucas would enjoy that, if that would be enjoyable. Do you think it
Co-portrait?
would? I don't know. I mean, it
I
might
did.
be for some people. You clean mushroom bottles?
Oh no. I thought you were talking about canvassing, like co-portrait.
No.
No.
I trust me. I know people who love that stuff, but
I like mushrooms too much. You know what? And
I really
even
couldn't eat mushrooms
I
for about
tried
2
to
years
grow
after
some.
that.
Somebody gave me like this whole growing kit, and I tried to grow some one time, and I was like, if I ever want to eat another mushroom, I have to get rid of this kit because this is not working for me.
That would be a hard one for me.
Yeah,
It was the smell for me. I mean, it was because you're taking these, plastic cylinders that had been full of manure and sawdust, and they still had that crusted on them. You dump them into these boiling vats of water, and the smell.
That sounds.
The smell is.
So how was lunch? What was lunch like?
I tell you what, you weren't going and getting any mushroom anything.
Good mushroom and
Yeah.
Swiss burger? No.
So yeah, that was pretty spectacular. So it was just monotonous. And these are, this was the days before. I think Walkmans were brand new at that point, so you could only flip the tape so many times before.
Before the batteries died on that thing.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and there's only so many ways. How many cassette tapes can you fit in your pockets?
Yeah, it's especially
not
when they're getting wet from all the hot water splashing on you and burning your hands and that. Yeah. It was great.
But so does this mean you don't eat mushrooms?
I actually do now.
Okay.
I've
It's far
It's
enough.
recovered.
let's see,
He's recovered.
Few years of therapy.
35 years later, I'm or more.
All right. Well, I will give you my worst job. I was there. It's the shortest job ever. They fired me. I told them they could not fire me, and I showed up to work again, and they continued to employ me. And then and I'm not proud of it now, but I waited till a Friday night when they were busy, and I quit an hour before shift.
Wow.
And here's why.
That's nasty.
Yeah, it was nasty. And here's why. Cliff Jackson was in the chat with us this week, and he said, sometimes it's not the job itself, but who you have supervising you that makes it undesirable.
That's very true.
Yeah.
And if someone is going to use bad language about me on the phone to me and just like berate me for this amount of time, I was like, you know what? Okay, cool. I came in, I did my job, I bailed you out, and then you did it to me again. And I was like, okay, well, this time we're going to learn a different lesson. And so, like I said, not proud of it now, but and it's not something I put on my resume, but that was for, should I say it?
You didn't have to name the restaurant.
Red Lobster.
There it is.
They're going out of business anyway.
there you
What do they care? They're
You just lost that sponsorship too.
Oh man! So
Randy, you're killing us here, man.
it was all of 3.5 weeks. The person that hired me, I loved them. They were nice. It was like, oh man, this isn't such a bad job, and it was only for a part of a summer, so it wasn't going to be long employment. But the other person, like I was the first person to leave, and within a week, 4 more followed me. So it wasn't just but I could have done it in a much nicer manner than that. And so anyway, I think we've covered the jobs that none of us like.
Time to get to work, Randy.
Time to get to work. So as we think about work and you think about your favorite job, your least favorite job, we all know that we have X number of time before,
Death.
job's going to end.
This is
This is
taking
getting
a
more
different
bleak
turn
as
here.
we go.
More bleak as we go. But how do you go to work every day? And I get it. There's probably people listening that are going, man, I love my job. I love going to work. The 4 of us sitting
Randy,
here.
do we need to talk about this? Because I mean, like, how do you guys show up at whole life and find joy, and particularly with the person we all work for and with?
Well, that's why I show up every day in a good mood. I'm like, Ken's going to be there. We're
Just don't quit before the busy shift, okay?
No, Ken and I, we've pinky sweared. We're here for the duration. This is it. And so, but I feel like as we think about work, and if you're one of the people that are like, man, I really don't like my job. I'm here because I have to be. I was a financial advisor for 12 years, and if I could have been a financial advisor for 2 years, that would have been awesome. Yeah. That would have been perfect. And I'm like, and I tried everything under the sun. I got offers from places. I put out resumes. I did everything in my power. I did side hustle. I did everything you can think of. And every time it was like, here's what
I'm sorry.
Siri wants to jump in. And it was like, that's a negative, ghostwriter. The pattern is full. Stay where you are. And I'm like, what? No, I don't want to be here. And what I wanted to talk about a little bit was, how do you feel when you don't know why you're stuck at a job that you don't like? You're praying about it.
Are you talking about
everything.
next week's sermon? Is that what we're talking about?
Am I stepping on next week's stuff already?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, so if you like your job, no.
No, seriously, next week we're going to talk about finding motivation when the job's not fun, because what you're getting into is the real. And I felt like we needed this week to kind of set the table, because a little bit of what we talked about this previous Sabbath, we're going to throw into the mix for next time when we talk about finding motivation, because to the point that I think you're driving at, there are a lot of times in life where we do a job not because we want to, but because it either puts food on the table or it must be done.
Yeah.
Or, I don't get a whole lot of enjoyment out of mowing my lawn at this time of year. Like when it gets a little cooler, it's not as bad, but this time of year, no joy. But if I don't do it, my HOA really gets frustrated, and then they start wanting money and all that good stuff. That's no good. So there's a lot of things, and even if they didn't, I would still mow my lawn. But it's one of those things. I don't get a lot of joy out of it. Melanie seems to enjoy like around the house projects, which
I love cutting my grass. Even now, in the heat. Yeah, I do.
Okay.
Sorry.
Well, no, but that's my point. Is like we all have things that we enjoy doing, things that we don't enjoy doing, things that are monotonous for us. And so next week, I really do want to dive into what do you do when you're in that place where you've got jobs that you don't want to do. And honestly, there are even times when you're in really great jobs that you love, that a particular assignment comes up or event or something and you're like, I don't want to be doing this right now.
Yeah.
And so where do you find the motivation? How do you work through those moments? So we'll talk about that for sure this next week.
Well, the other thing was maybe half-heartedly or maybe sometimes seriously, where it's like, man, it'd be great not to work, wouldn't it? If I won the lottery and then, blah, 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 blah. But honestly, the way you lay things out, and I have no doubt it's something I've always believed, but I mean, people with work gives you purpose. Yeah. And there's something about, even if it's a task, even the remedial or the lawn mowing for some of us is cathartic. It's like, hey, I'm just going to go out and push the mower. And I love seeing the grass come out on the other side nice and trim, and then hitting it with the weed eater and then grabbing the blower and, finishing the whole thing up. And I go, man, anyone can do that job. It takes almost zero talent to cut the grass.
I don't know.
Oh, no?
I think that there is some challenge.
So I'm not invited to cut Melanie's grass because I don't think I'm going to do it right.
What do you do? Do you do S's while you're just like...
if you're the person that's like, they must be diagonal lines, you must not follow the curvature of any tree or anything in your yard. It must be, there's those kinds of people. Or they have to be straight lines. Do they? Yeah.
Straight lines are important.
Are they? And I'm just like, let's get this thing mowed.
Ken, you can come mow my lawn.
Sadly, it's Randy who likes to, so you're in trouble now. Maybe that's why I don't like doing it. Maybe that's my problem.
See, if you just let it flow more, Ken, just become one with the
become one with the landscape. Just.
But I feel like that is it's hard to feel if you're not doing something that's even remedial. It can totally change your attitude for the day. And a lot of times in the morning, I'm not much of a morning person, but I'll get up and go, man, I could just sit and drink a cup of coffee and read for a good hour. Man, that would be the great way to start the morning. But I also don't want to get up at 6 a.m. to do that, right? And so, but yet if you go outside and you get a project done, it feels so good. And I know that's in God's image, but what about that makes it so palpable that when people are like, I'm bored, I'm like, go do something. I'll tell my kids that all the time. I'm bored. Well, go, there's this project that could be done. That project could be done. No, I don't want to do that. The
lawn needs to be mowed, and Dad doesn't care whether it's straight lines, so just go for it.
So it's straight lines if Ken's mowing, but if it's someone else that's going to mow the grass, he doesn't really. So you'd let me come mow your grass?
Oh, absolutely.
I might take you up on that.
Yeah. Anytime.
Okay.
Just drive right over.
Well, we're almost neighbors now,
we are
so
close.
We're close. So I don't know what that is or what about.
I actually have a neighbor who could use your,
Could he use some help?
I've been trying to summon the pastoral Ken to do what ought to be done, but
Well, why doesn't the pastoral Ken call the non-pastoral Randy, and maybe together they could just go over and do
that's
that,
a
and then
good idea.
we could go get brunch afterwards. How about
We'll
that?
have to do that.
Okay,
We'll have to do
I'm
that.
down.
So, Lucas, what should you and I talk about?
Red Lobster?
Red Lobster.
Don't worry about it.
So, but seriously, Melanie, where does that come from? This innate desire that we have, or that needs to be fulfilled in us, to feel like we're almost like we're a contributing member of society.
Right. So that's so the correct answer is the one that Ken gave in his sermon, of course. And that is, they were created in the image of God, and God works. And so then, but I will suggest a possible other reason why, and that is because of the society that we live in, and the idea that you are a contributing member of society only if you're accomplishing something. We place a high premium on self-sovereignty. So if you're unable to do for yourself, you're not valued as highly as a member of society as someone who can do not only for themselves but for others.
Yikes,
So
yeah.
I think some of it is a social construct and some of it is innate.
Wow.
Well, I mean, yeah, if you just want to go to the social psychology of it, I mean, the whole idea of public assistance and that sort of thing is a relatively new invention. And it used to be if you didn't work, you weren't contributing to the village, to the tribe.
You didn't eat.
You not only didn't eat, but you could get run out. You're gonna need to leave because you're taking up valuable resources and space with your presence. And if you're not going to contribute in some way, it was a pretty serious thing to be born with a birth defect that would cause a problem with being able to work. Because, like I said, in the world we live in now, a lot more gentle than it used to be. And Christianity, I think. Great book by Tom Holland called Dominion. Tom really lays out how Christianity really changed the world in this aspect of the dignity and worth of a human being that really wasn't there prior to Christianity. And if you don't agree with me, just go argue with Tom Holland. He wrote the book. It's called Dominion. It's a really interesting book. Like Melanie said, my original point is I believe it's because God puts that into our DNA, that it's a part of being human. But I think another aspect of it, beyond the if you don't produce, you don't eat, or you might get thrown out of your village or tribe or whatever, another aspect of it is the social side of things. And I think that sometimes can get a little overworked. But generally speaking, work is a social activity. It's something that puts you in contact with other human beings. You generally are having to rely on somebody else or have somebody else help you. Back when, hunter-gatherers, you really weren't going out a lot by yourself. You'd have somebody come along with you, and it was a group hunt that you would do. When it comes to community projects, you'd be working together to dig the well. You'd work together to put the houses up. And as human beings, neuroscience will tell you that our brains are absolutely 100% wired for relationship. I mean, we are social beings to the core of who we are. And so I think that's another aspect of work, that when you don't have meaningful work, it often pulls you out of society. It pulls you outside of having meaningful contact with people. And that can cause depression, and that can cause anxiety, because we feel anxious when our relationships are sideways or not right. And so those are all factors that, if you were to take God completely out of the equation, which I'm not, but if you were, there's a whole lot of science behind this of why human beings operate the way they do, just from a biological and psychological standpoint of that we just genuinely need the work. I mean, just think about the other part. If you're sitting, your muscles atrophy, and so human beings really just genuinely need work. We may not always like it, but that's the other part that I would say that I think is important to think about. I don't generally like going to the gym. It's not my favorite thing to do, but a new friend of mine, Don, has been going to the gym every Sunday and told me that I was going to be his workout buddy, and we were going to do that. So I've been going. And because I know that if I don't show up, he's going to hold me accountable for it, I show up, and what I've been doing is I began to actually learn to enjoy some aspects of it, and there's also the social aspect of things. Just because you don't enjoy it doesn't mean it's not good for you, and it doesn't mean just because you don't enjoy it that it isn't actually growing you in a way that you need to be grown. And sometimes I think that as human beings, we want to avoid pain. Work often will involve things that are hard, relationships, that get screamed at when you're in customer service by somebody who isn't happy with whatever, even though it may or may not be your fault.
Yeah.
That's still something that will actually grow you. Learning how to deal with unhappy people is important, and it's a skill. And so again, I think, I had somebody come up after church and say, respectfully, I disagree with you. I really do I think Mark Twain and Confucius were onto something when they said, if you find a job you love, you'll never work a day in your life. And they talked about how much they loved their job, and we talked about that. And I don't really want to argue about things. I just know from myself, I have some jobs I absolutely adored. I love the job I'm doing right now. Love, love, love it. I loved working in television news. Loved it. But I remember days where I had to cover stories that about somebody, a public figure who's accused of something, and I don't know whether they really did it or didn't do it, but I know that as soon as I air it, that will forever be on their record. It will forever, even if a week later the person's exonerated and we come back and do a story, it will never change the fact that mud's on them, and I'm the one doing that. And for me, that was a heavy thing to carry. And there were days when I would get told I had to go do an interview that I knew somebody didn't want, ambush them, and I don't want to do that. I didn't enjoy it. I know that people thought I didn't enjoy it. I'd have knots in my stomach, but I loved my job.
But that was still one of your favorite jobs.
But there were days I went to work. I mean, and that's the other part is I don't think it's right to make work a dirty word, it's something bad. Work can be fun.
Yeah.
I mean, work can be lots of fun.
Well, I think there's a nuance also between meaningful work and frantic overwork.
Yeah.
And that's another social cultural aspect. I was in Europe a couple of years ago, and someone said you can tell who the Americans are because they're the ones carrying their coffee. Everyone else sat down and enjoyed their coffee. So I think taking a look at the work that you're doing and asking yourself, is this meaningful, purposeful work that is healthy, or is this a frantic overworking that ends up being toxic? And I think the toxic kind of work is one of the things that makes work a 4-letter word for some people.
Mm. Well, and I think it's a lot of those people that end up, and I've seen both. As a financial advisor who is focused on retirement planning, you saw the gamut of everybody. People that were, man, I really love my job and I don't ever want to quit. And you're like, okay, but you're, and they were like the best savers, right? Because you're happy and you've probably advanced in your career and you're able to put more money in your retirement plan. And you're like, oh man, this is going to be great when I retire. And it's like, well, when's that going to be? Because as in my business, it was always, in the group that I worked with, when you retire, you need to do everything that you want to do. That's like, I'm going to try. If travel's your thing, do it before you're 80. Like everything you should do, like you've been planning for your whole life, you have bucket list items, do them before you're 80. Because the high majority, and this is research that's been done by the insurance companies, by the actuaries, they know, you're going to spend all your money between if you retire at 65, you're able to, or 70, up to 80. That's when you spend all your money because that's when you have all the ideas. You're going to go on that cruise. You're going to travel the world. You're going to buy, whatever car or
assuming
home.
Randy's been your financial advisor.
Well, assuming that, we've done the right
if
things.
You're privileged enough to do that.
I think we need to set up a day where Randy just works with all this stuff.
But yet, I'll never forget one client. We had met with them as a couple, and he was finally retiring. He was like 70, I think he was 76. And his wife had been pestering him, like, we have more money than we will ever spend. We have more money than we can give our kids. We should be enjoying life. And she'd been retired since she was in her 50s. And so, but what do you do when you love your job? So 2 weeks later, unexpectedly, she walks into our office to tell us and brings us a death certificate. He just natural causes, died in his sleep.
Before or after he retired?
Well, he was retired. He had just retired. He'd been retired for less than like 7 days, 8 days. And so, and not to say, again, that you shouldn't save or, do all those things, because it's prudent. It's a good thing to do. And, his family is well taken care of, all that stuff. But all the things that you worked, so for some people, if it's, I just have to work so I can get to that next phase, also, or the people that retire, but like Ken mentioned in his sermon, they don't have anything to do. They don't have a plan. And you watch those, like my grandfather, one of my grandpas was, he retired maybe 6 years, and he liked to read, and that was it. Take care of his lawn and read. Well, that's not a lot of exercise. That's not a lot. There's no hobby there, and there's nothing to keep you sharp and busy and doing things. Exercise.
I object. Reading is a hobby.
Well, no, that's true. I'm sorry.
But there's no active hobby. How about
right.
that?
It's not unless you're listening to the book while you're jogging or doing something else. I don't know. And yet, my other grandfather, I saw him, who was always active. He didn't know what to do with himself if he wasn't active. And he lived, I felt like, we lived longer, but also more fulfilling. He was busy. He was doing things. He was seeing people. He was out of the house. He was doing stuff. And I look at those two, and it's like, there's something to what you said, Ken, that you got to have a plan to stay moving. And I guess even hobbies can be, work if you want to make it that, and make it fun work when you retire.
Yeah, when I retire, my hope is, rather than a cessation of work altogether, what I hope to do is more on my schedule.
Yeah.
I want to still work. I just want to do it on my schedule. If I want to take off a month and do a cruise, I'll take off a month and do a cruise. But I also want to have meaningful. I don't really want to get to the place where I'm not contributing in some meaningful way to creating order in the world.
Yeah. No, I think it's just, we saw it so many times that way, where you could just encourage people. And so I think as we're going to continue to dig deeper into this over the next couple of weeks, like we have 3 more of these?
We have technically 3 more, with a 4th that is kind of a standalone, but we're going to talk at the end of our rest. So at the end of our play, at the end of our work, we're going to talk about rest.
Fair enough.
But we're only spending 1 week on that because.
So what do we?
Because God created the earth in 6 days.
Yes.
And on the 7th day, you only need 1 out of 6.
If it's good enough for God, it's good enough for us, right?
Melanie.
I had a question. Corbin wanted to know, if heaven is perfect and we're perfect in heaven, will there be work in heaven?
I believe so. And the reason I believe that is that there was work before there was ever any sin, before there was a lack of perfection. There was work. There was stuff to do. We see God doing it. We see him giving those assignments to Adam and Eve. So I believe so. I think the work will be different. I think that it'll, I don't think it'll have the pain involved with it that it has now. But
there will be chaos in heaven.
There will be no chaos.
No.
Well, if there's no chaos, then how is work making order out of chaos?
Well, I don't think that just because you're, if you have a grapevine and it's growing and you help take it up the trellis, I don't know that I think that's bringing order out of what could be chaos, but I don't know if there's pain in that. Because that's all we're going to do in heaven is just grapevines.
Just grapevines.
Trellises.
Oh,
But
Yeah.
And what are the harps out now? In the clouds?
it's
What?
harp making.
Oh, harp making. I bet I'd be good at that. Yeah.
And grape juice
Off of
From-
Ken's grapes that he's
off
putting
of
on the
the
trellis.
vines. That's right.
Oh man, I can see it now. Mama Doc said we will not tire out in heaven, but we will keep busy. So, being busy without the pain, and we're not going to tire out. I like the sound of that one. The other last one was a text message that we got, and right before we started recording, I was like, wait a minute, I think there's one more thing. This is from Anonymous. It says, "Hello there. I loved this sermon. For me, it serves as a reminder that in everything we should do is for the Lord. I've always said that my work is my ministry. As I tend to patients on a daily basis, as well as I tend to my family's needs, I do it for the Lord. As if those 2 jobs weren't enough, I decided to add a 3rd one this year. This sounds like pain. And embarked on another journey to go back to school and obtain my master's in nurse practitioner.
Wow.
Before every quiz, every assignment, I say a silent prayer. God, this is for you. This degree is for you. It keeps me humbled. And again, it's a constant reminder that this work is for the Lord. This is my continued act of worship in everything I do at home, at work, and now in school.
Nice.
A 3rd. Well, there's overachievers in every single place you look, and there's underachievers. But obviously, Anonymous, you are an overachiever if you are going back to school with 2 jobs to be a nurse practitioner. So prayers and well wishes for that journey, because I wouldn't want to jump in there and be a part of that. I think that's more than I can handle. So, so what are we looking forward to, like, in the next 3 weeks before we get to rest? Like, what are we going to look forward to with work?
Next week is finding motivation.
Motivation.
And then the week after that, we're going to talk about being a servant, about being a follower and about being a leader. And so it's an interesting thing that you can get degrees in leadership, but there really isn't. I've never seen a master's degree in followership. And so we're going to kind of talk about why there's a place for both of those things. And so at work, what it means to be a follower, a good follower, and what it means to be a good leader. So we'll talk about that 2 weeks from now. And then the 3 weeks from now, Anderlene's going to be speaking. She's going to be talking about
is she the rest?
Service.
Service. She's going to be talking about service.
Okay.
About serving the community through your work.
Ooh.
So she'll talk about that. And that's kind of going to be fun because she's also, after the sermon, having an open house at the new Whole Life Center.
You heard it
and
here
you can
first,
find
people.
out more about that. It's going to be really cool. She's going to have a bunch of our partners from the community that we work with come in and kind of setting the stage for this year's Connected event that's coming up at the end of September or
September
21?
21st,
yeah, there we go.
I want to say 21, yeah.
And so then the Sabbath after that, we have our sermon on rest, and we're also going to be celebrating communion on that Sabbath. And then we jump into our Great Questions series, which I think, Melanie, you've already gotten a couple because somebody actually CC'd
Get in
me
with
on
your
one
best
of them.
shot.
I got
Take your best shot.
I got 6 in just on Saturdays.
Wow.
People have questions. Inquiring minds want to know.
That doesn't make me feel anxious at all.
The early adapters.
I know. I was like, man, we just started asking. Was it last week on the podcast for people to do that?
Yeah.
Wow, you guys are awesome. 6. I'm gonna attribute it all to our podcast listeners.
Is that the one I was CC'd? Include the one I was CC'd
It
in, or
does.
there's more? Okay.
Yes. I noticed you were CC'd.
Oh,
Like
yeah,
that's
you weren't
kind
supposed to tell
kind
Ken.
of cheating, so
Yeah.
I don't know.
I was kind of happy that I got.
He's like, I'd like to
I
see.
got a preview.
I'd
like to
kind of
see this
happy I got
again.
that one ahead of time. Like I've already
Oh man,
started
I am
having-
excited because if we've got 6 already, that
Oh,
means
yeah.
we're gonna have a very lush
Oh yes.
pile in the basket to rifle through before we find the right one, just the right one. And I trust in Melanie.
ones. Yeah,
I trust in Melanie. I really do. Look at this one. If you that laugh right there tells you everything you need to know about that. And then Ken gets a solid 6-7 days to figure this out. Is that
4.5.
4.5? Is that
Yeah, if I have Sunday. Well,
it? Supposed to
what
be
do I guess from 1 o'clock on Saturday till
Tuesday morning.
Thursday morning at 10 a.m.
Wow. Well, there you go.
There we go.
It's gonna be fun. This is probably the second best one every year, though. Out of everything that
Like I
we
said,
do,
there are times you have to go to work.
yeah. It's like I'm feeling a little last week. I think
I
Melanie.
have one that I'm going to get sick on right into like, Melanie, it's your turn now.
Well,
You better be prepared on every single one of them. You
At
don't know
least-
which one I'm going to throw your way.
at least we know that if it comes to that, we're in good hands with Melanie preaching. If it comes to that, but man, throw your best because I'm always curious because some of the stuff that you guys come up with for questions, I'm like, wait, what? That's in the Bible.
That's
Like, what?
deep.
I mean, I've read through the Bible at least twice, and I'm like, I don't remember that story at all, or this question. Like, I don't know where this fits in. So I'm always amazed at what you guys come up with. So we will definitely be looking forward to that.
Melanie@wholelife.church.
That's it. Keep them
Send
coming.
in your questions.
Keep them coming.
I appreciate softballs too, by the way. Like, for instance, a great one would be, Ken, what do you want to talk about?
And that is a question.
It's a great question.
If I get
I'll
one
send that
from
one.
Anonymous at Ken's IP address, I'm going to know where that came from.
What is this? And there's this person that's been jumping into the chat recently. It might come from a totally anonymous Melanie. You just never know.
It might. I don't know. That sounds like that would be a good one, though.
Yeah.
See, that's one of the things I don't trust Melanie or Tammy, that they weren't just putting the questions that they wanted. Like, show me the real email, because I don't believe this really came in. I don't think that anybody cares about how many Hittites were murdered.
You never know, though. You never know. Quite like you said, inquiring minds want to know. Well, guys, thank you so much. I know that as summertime comes, everyone is kind of busy and everyone's on vacation and you're getting kids ready to go back to school and all these things. And over the last couple of weeks, we've seen you all start catching up on all of the episodes because the numbers have been piling up really, really quickly. So I'm hoping that some of those are you actually taking the episode and sharing it with friends, family, anyone that you may not be sure that they listen to podcasts.
Just putting it on repeat on your phone, whatever.
I know. I've got 4 phones. It's as much as I can do right now. They're old, the old iPhone 6. It's got to be plugged into the wall the whole time to make this happen. So, But if you would continue to share, and especially if it's something you feel like, someone
if you know somebody who wants to sponsor this,
That's it.
Since
Ken's
McDonald's and Red Lobster are out at the moment.
Yeah. So if you know anyone, it's podcast@wholelife.church. We'd be happy to throw in a good word or 2, maybe 3. And not disparage. We will never disparage our sponsors, our real sponsors on the show. I promise. So that's going to do it, guys, for this week. Thanks for listening and have a great week.